Hi guys, are you looking for something simple and sweet to give to your Valentine or bring to your kids' school this year? I have a great, adorable heart thumbprint cookie to share with you. The dough is 5 ingredients, 5 simple ingredients. This is 1.5 sticks of butter, room temp. Just get it into your mixer, or you can do this by hand if you want to. 1/2 cup of confectioner's sugar. You guys try doing it backwards. I see you out there laughing at me. 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Beat those together until creamy. Now, for this cookie in particular, you don't want to overbeat your dough because it's a thumbprint with a heart in it and you want it to maintain its shape as much as possible while it's baking. So in this instance, you just want to beat your butter and sugar until creamy, so not more than a minute. Often we'll say until light and fluffy, 2 minutes. You don't really want to go that far in this instance. Combine it. It looks like everything is fully combined. You can add your flour. It's 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. How am I going to do that? I'm doing it like this. You can add all your flour at once. You don't need to do it in batches. Beat until that is combined. Like I said, you can do this with a hand mixer. You can even probably do this with a wooden spoon in a bowl if you wanted to. It's a particularly fun thing to do as a project if you have children because the recipe for the dough is so simple. And you'll see when you get to the part where you're making the hearts that tiny little fingers would actually be great for shaping them. So this is a pretty soft dough. If it's extremely soft and you find that it's sticky, you can put it into the refrigerator for a couple minutes before you shape it, but you should be able to roll it into balls and shape it immediately after it's mixed. Now you want to form the dough into balls. I'm using a scoop to scoop them into level tablespoons and then rolling into balls. You can put about 8 per sheet. This makes 24. I don't know why. I always have such a hard time rolling into balls. Look, this is what my balls end up looking like. Someone's gonna tell me that I'm just doing it all wrong, but I have a really hard time making my balls not look pointy. I don't know what it is. Everybody else seems to be able to do it perfectly. I've not mastered the perfect ball shaping despite using a scoop. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I should be able to do this after cooking for basically my entire life. It's so funny. I don't know, honestly. Why? No one knows. It's a mystery. Someone knows, just not me. Okay, once all of your balls are formed, you're going to use the handle end of a rubber spatula or a fork or even a knife to create a V in each cookie. You want to press it in about, I'd say about 1/2 inch, because as your cookies expand, this is going to expand into the shape of a heart. And that's it. If you want the hearts to really hold their shape really nicely, we don't have this in the recipe, but you can put them into the refrigerator for about 10 or 20 minutes, and that will firm the cookie dough up a little bit before they bake. While the cookies are baking, I like to do one thing. This is so that I can add a little bit of sparkle right at the end. Whisk together 1 egg white with a teaspoon of water. Get that nice and broken up. And you can do this while your cookies are baking. They need to bake about 15 minutes, so they're going to be starting to turn slightly golden on the bottom. I like to use a combination of sanding sugars to give a little bit of sparkle, so combine some coarse sanding sugar with some fine sanding sugar. You don't have to do that. You can do one or the other, and you can completely skip this step if you want to. But I think it adds a nice touch. And if you want to give just a hint of color and a little bit of shimmer, you can add a little bit of luster dust. This is a rose-colored luster dust, but like I said, you certainly don't need to go out and buy it if you don't want to, and it's very subtle. You can also brush that on at the end once the cookies are cool. Okay, so these are ready. I'm going to get my cookies out of the oven. Okay, so these have baked. They're almost completely baked. Now you can brush just lightly, one at a time, the cookies, just the edges, not the indentations. I mean, it's not gonna hurt if you get it in the indentations. That's gonna get filled with jam anyway. So one at a time, you just do that and then sprinkle with a little bit of the sugar. So the reason that you're doing this one at a time is the egg white's gonna set kind of quickly. So you want to get the sugar on it before the egg white sets on the hot cookie. Otherwise, it's just gonna roll right off and you might as well be doing this onto a completely baked cookie. The point of doing this at this point is you'll put this back into the oven with the egg white so that the sanding sugar will adhere. Most of the time in cookie recipes, we have you apply the sanding sugar prior to cooking, but we found with this cookie that the sugar had a tendency to make the heart shape get misshapen more easily than not, so we applied it afterwards. I also do think that if you let this set just a minute or two before you start brushing with the egg white, it'll be cool enough that it won't set so quickly, because I'm finding that the ones that I'm doing now are working just a little bit better than the first one, and I think that's because my cookie was really hot. And also be pretty generous with the egg white, because it is going to set up quickly, like I said, if the cookie is hot. So get these back into the oven. That will finish cooking the egg white and make sure that the sugar is fully adhered, only like 1 to 2 minutes. So once your cookies come out of the oven, you want to let them cool completely. And to fill them, you're going to want to cook your jam just a little bit. This helps it so that it's not too sticky. It'll actually set again in the cookies if you do it this way. If you just spoon it into the cookies straight out of the jar, even if it's whisked, it's going to be very, very soft. But if you heat it up and let it boil just a little bit beforehand and then strain it, that just removes any, pieces of fruit or whatever. Then when you spoon it into the hollows of the hearts, it will set as it cools. So it's a nice way, especially if you want to box these up or hand them out at a, kid's party or something like that. You don't want it to be too messy. You need to start with about 3/4 of a cup of jam, because it gets strained to remove some of the pieces of fruit and stuff, and that will reduce the volume. Each cookie gets about a 1/2 teaspoon, but you definitely don't want to run out. You can also use jelly here. Then you still want to heat it though, because even if you use jelly, which doesn't necessarily need to be strained, you're going to want to heat it for the same reason, so that it sets in the cookies. So you're going to want to fill the hollows of these cookies with the jam. It should only take about 1/2 teaspoon, and if you want to be the most exact and precise, you can actually transfer this jam into a squeeze bottle that has a little tip cut off, and then squeeze the jam in. But I'm just going to use a spoon and try to be as precise as possible. Don't add too much. If you can always add more, but you really can't take it back. So start small. And then, as you can see, the heart shape really comes out as you fill it with the jam, and the red jam is so beautiful in here. But you can use like a grapefruit jam if you want sort of a rosy tint, or pineapple for yellow. You can make a variety of different colors and make an array. If you're very careful, you don't really need to use the squeeze bottle, but it certainly doesn't hurt if you have one on hand. They're so cute. If you are making these with the kids, this is probably not the time to let little tiny kids help, because it'll get a little messy. Like, wait till they go take a nap or something and then fill them, and then when they get up from their nap, they can have a sweetheart treat. And nobody is covered with sticky jam. Aren't these so cute? They're delicious, and they're so perfect any time of year. If you like recipes like this and you want more, make sure to click like and subscribe, because we have plenty more where this came from.